as we move to semi-final AB number 2, Australia, Netherlands, Greece, USA, Italy and Czechia.
Yeah, I can't help but think that the race between Greece in lane 3 and USA in lane 4 is going to be fascinating for that third place position. I'm putting them in third place. There are the Australians. Amazing combination, just missed out on the final in Tokyo because of the weather change, and their heats or their semis for the 4 and pairs were together. There's Meester and Cleverly from the Netherlands, rode beautifully in any conditions. Anastasiadou and Barompu from Greece, and Barompu, of course, in that Tokyo pair, which put the Australians out of the final, I think, Sarah, in the Tokyo Olympics. USA, we didn't get a look at them. Russia and the veteran Megan Musnicki, great to see her back. Kodato and Rocek, the Italians in lane 5, and Novotnikova and Flamikova, the Czechs, in this lane 6.
Yeah, and Cruz getting fairly smoothly away. If anything, I'm just thinking who it is. The US got slightly left, but that might have been the Greeks getting such a good start, Sarah.
Yeah, it looked like the Greeks really blasted out to an early start there, but we can see the Americans on screen. Olympic champion Musnicki, her back we were looking at, but we saw a bit of a steering correction there a moment ago from the Dutch, who veered off their lane. They're in lane 2 next to Australia and the Greeks, so they're going to have to be careful, but it looks like they're correcting that.
Yeah, the Dutch crew needing to make that little steering correction. As you said, Martin, the Dutch pairing, they rose so well in all conditions. They'll be tested today into this headwind. And yeah, just needed to make that steering correction as they were moving towards the Americans, but it hasn't slowed them down. Look, they've still got a canvas lead at the front.
I'm just thinking with the Americans, how cautious do you think crews are going to be in the first, 20 strokes to be clean off the start? I'm just wondering with the Americans, an experienced oarswoman like Musnicki, she'd know you've got to be there in the race, and she's a length down to her biggest rival for that third place.
Yeah, no, you can see it, how much the Americans have dropped there. That there's a little bit of clear water to that third qualifying place with the Greeks beside them. And like you say, do you go for sort of 2 nice, long, powerful, clean strokes to get away cleanly, or do you get burned for doing that?
This is really interesting. The Australians up at 38 strokes per minute. The Dutch down on 37, but they look lower. They're just really long and powerful. They had that little steering correction earlier and catching a bit of water here on their blades, so they're going to have to be careful, but it looks like maybe the Australians are starting to work through as they're coming up to the 500-metre mark.
Well, these Dutch crews tend to look pretty relaxed as we see them coming through the first 500. You can see it's there, the top 3 positions on that far side of the course with the Netherlands, Australia and Greece. Good effort from the Czechia crew on this side of the course. But I think about that relaxation, how you're in this difficult water. If you're not careful, your forearms start to burn, don't they? You grip onto the blade quite hard. You want that looseness of the Dutch crew.
Yeah, and a lot of talk about the training program that the Dutch team have been following. Call it 80-20, talking to the American coach, Chris Kozlowski. The Americans at the back of the field, they're going to have to move soon. But a lot of low-intensity, steady state, governed by their pulse rate. They're not allowed to go above their pulse rate. A couple of times a week they do intensive sessions. Might be pretty boring, but it seems to be producing results.
So we have a shot there of the Italians on screen. They came through in 6th place through the first 500-metre mark, so they're going to find it hard to get themselves into the race. But this race unfolding at the front of the field is interesting. 750 metres in, I don't know, we would have expected to see the Dutch ahead of McIntyre and Morrison. They're unbeaten this season. They went under world best time at Hollenbecker earlier in the year, but the Dutch have really gone out hard and fast and are looking to try and, I think, trap those Australians for as long as they can.
How surprised are you? The Aussies aren't in the lead at this point of the race, and it's the Dutch, Sarah.
I'm completely surprised.
Well, we were there in Lucerne, weren't we? And we saw this Australian pairing were quite dominant. I remember watching them in the semi-final, and it was lengths and lengths of clear water they had. But here they are now against the Netherlands crew. And yeah, Meester and Clevering doing a very good job here, and that gap isn't getting any smaller.
Yeah, these 2 women took the silver medal in the 4, just behind these 2 Australians in the Tokyo Olympics. Yeah. And, I love the way they rode in the under-23s. Used to call it sexy rowing because they were so loose on the way forward, easy. And the Australians may be coming into it a bit more.
Yeah, we've just seen a bit of a shift there. In fact, the Dutch had their stern on the Australian bow ball, and the Australians have gotten overlap again. So are we going to see a move come here? The Australians down on 35. They're a point lower than the Dutch, up on 36. But they're moving about the same speed, but it does look to me as though the Australians are starting to work back onto the boat now in this third quarter. Let's see how this plays out, Greg.
Well, that looks like the race that we're focusing in on, and it's whether that half length is going to get any smaller between the Dutch and the Australians. The race you're not seeing, because we're not getting too many pictures, is this one for this third qualifying place. The Greeks, as you can see on that graphic, have moved through, but Czechia is still in there. I think the Americans are still in there as well. They're only a few metres behind the Greek crew as well. So I wouldn't be surprised yet to see that experience from the Americans coming through.
Yeah, the Australians, as you said, Sarah, now edging back to the crew from the Netherlands. These two pretty assured, barring accidents, of qualification. The Greeks looking good. Barompu in the lightweight, Anastasiadou. Amazing that the 21-year-old is in that qualifying position in the headwind. But, well, what can Russia and Musnicki do at the back of the field? Their parents, Jack and Cindy, were Olympic rowers back in the day, and or Russia's parents, and they will be looking on Megan Musnicki, of course, 2 Olympic gold medals, and you kind of think that's got to kick in at some stage in the race.
Yeah, Martin, I can't help picking up on what you're saying there about Alison Russia, whose father Jack I remember seeing racing back in the day. Megan Musnicki, who's been to she's been 5 times world champion, twice Olympic champion, always in the 8. There's that story going on at the back. We're focusing in here on this one. The Australians are coming back with the Dutch for the last 500, but I think it's all about what's going on here, really.
And like the Americans.
It is.
Oh my God, they've just come through.
As we see through the 1500 metre, it is the Netherlands narrowly 0.46 ahead of Australia. US sensationally has pushed themselves back in. That experience that you're talking about, Greg and Martin, we know that will kick in. And I used to race Musnicki back when I was rowing, and the Americans and Megan were such incredible sprinters, so absolutely wouldn't discount them. I expect that the Americans will get through. But here go the Australians. They've looked so cool, calm and collected. You will not meet 2 more level-headed, calm athletes, absolutely businesslike and clinical, than Jess Morrison and Annabelle McIntyre. And they're showing their calibre here as they move pretty, it looks effortless, but it's absolutely not for either crew through the Dutch.
Yeah, totally not effortless. They're making it look that way. A great move from the Australians pushing back. The Dutch have now responded, but I think that move from Australia will push them through, but who knows? The Dutch will fight for it. The 2 of them are going. They know it's important as to what lane you're going to get come the final.
The graphics.
Let's be clear on this graphic in the corner. It's showing the Greeks, but there's no number for the American boat. The American boat are in the 3rd all-important qualifying place.
So coming up to the line, Australia are going to take this 1st place unless the Netherlands can muster a sprint. Great rowing from these 2 pairs over on the favoured far side. As I look to my right, the Americans are in 3rd place position. Don't need to worry about that if you're watching in the USA. Alison Russia and Megan Musnicki are way behind, but they're going to qualify if they keep it clean.
Well, here we go, coming down to the line. It's looked a bit bumpy towards the finish line, but Australia do get that 1st place ahead of Netherlands. Big performance, big last 500 from that Australian pair. And now we will see the American pair coming into the shot now to get that 3rd qualifying place and seal selection or qualification for the Paris Olympics. They've come through the Greek pair, who we'll see come to the line now. And the brave Czechia crew who took this on come through in front of our shot now, followed by the Italians. Well, we say it looks effortless, but you can see this picture how hard Morrison and McIntyre have been made to work.
They were such hard conditions, but they really did a good job, I think, of just staying calm, just doing the work. They had a few dirty strokes just as they were going in that last 250. They copped a bit of dirty water, so that sort of unsettled them, but they still managed to take that race win. We see a hug there between Russia and Musnicki of the USA. They have qualified the boat for the Paris Olympic Games by qualifying for the A final.